Yo, welcome back to another episode of On the Spot Sports. And before we get to our guest today, we have a big shout out for Living Sisu. Living Sisu is a platform and app that wants to give you all the tools to have success in your sport. Their main objective is to activate your lifestyle. So it's for active people. Enjoy discounts at companies like BioSteel, 30% off. Body Logics, the Goalie Guild, all his books are discounted. Roan, Lululemon for men, 20% off. Online stretching programs with Eccentrics, 1 full month free. They got super silent massage guns, 20% off those. And it's a great quality. It's way less expensive than a Theragun, and it's great quality. So there's so many more discounts that you guys will need to just become a member to see. So they want to provide you with anything you need for success. So come join the community. I'm a part of it. A bunch of other athletes are a part of it. So it's free to join. It takes 20 seconds to get exclusive offers to your sport, and it's definitely worth it. So do us a huge favor and go sign up for Living Sisu's membership. It's free, 20 takes 20 seconds. So go do it, and we'll see you there. Living Sisu is a great company. We know one of the co-founders, Zach Cowley. He's a great guy. He's the co-founder. He does a lot of live streams on Instagram at Living Sisu, with a bunch of elite athletes, and you learn a lot from like the athletes' determination, their resiliency, everything to what made them become successful. So it's been a great experience so far. So go on. I'm gonna leave the link in the description. So go sign up. All right. Let's get this episode on the way. Our guest for today came from the University of Denver to play NCAA Division I hockey. Spent time in the East Coast Hockey League. Spent time in the American Hockey League. He spent the last few seasons over in Italy, Poland, Slovakia. So he's had some incredible experiences over the course of his career so far, and he's shared some of those experiences and stories with us with me today. So let's get right into this episode. And in today's episode, we have Evan Cowley from HK Nitra. So let's get into this. Yo, welcome back to another episode of On the Spot Sports. I'm Jack, and today is episode 72 of On the Spot Sports, and we are joined by a very special guest, Evan Cowley. Evan is a current professional hockey goaltender playing overseas in Slovakia with HK Nitra. He also spent time playing in the NAHL, so the NAHL, NCAA Division I hockey with University of Denver, ECHL, and the AHL, along with trips playing in Poland and Denmark. Welcome to the show, Evan Cowley. Evan, how are you?
Good, thanks. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So thanks for coming on. And how about you give our viewers a little like background information on you, like when did you start playing hockey, and like why did you become a goaltender, and like some of the teams you played on?
Yeah, so I grew up in Colorado and probably started playing officially around second year squirt, so like 9 years old at a pretty cool organization called Arvada. Had a lot of great friends there. Ended up playing there until second year of midgets, and then I, like you said, signed in the North American League with Wichita Falls. Played there for a year. Had a pretty good year. Ended up getting drafted to Florida. Signed with University of Denver. Went to the University of Denver that next year. 4 years. Really great experience getting to play in my hometown, and ended out with a national championship our senior year, which was great. Signed my first pro contract with the Florida Panthers affiliate, Springfield. Played there for a year, and then just decided it was a good time to kind of work on myself a bit, get some cool experience going overseas. And then, yeah, the last few years, I've just been kind of hopping from team to team, trying to work my way up the ladder in Europe here. So happy to be in Slovakia this year with a pretty cool team and a great city.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let's start off with your junior career in the NAHL with the Wichita Falls Wildcats. So you played 50 games. You had a 2.9 goals against average and a 900 save percentage. So were you expected to play that many games like right off the bat, or did you what were some of your expectations going into your first year?
Yeah, I was super fortunate. I had a coach named Paul Baxter who, right off the bat, said to me he was going to give me a ton of ice time and a ton of minutes. And that was one of the reasons why I chose to go there. And no, it was a really great situation. I was still super young, like barely, I think 17 years old, and fairly inexperienced at that point. So it was pretty cool, like knowing that even if you had a bad game, you'd be kind of the guy the next night. And so it really kind of allowed me to work on my consistency and my approach every single day, which was huge for me at that point.
Yeah, so obviously you played 50 games, so like it takes a taxing on your body. So like how do you like recover from like playing so many games and like being able to go right back at it the next day?
Yeah, man, I think it was pretty spread out. I think it was like Friday, Sunday games or something, or the games were only on the weekend. So you kind of had the whole week to recharge. But I was also in high school at the time too. So I just remember it being just a whirlwind. Honestly, the whole year was pretty much a blur. A lot of sleep, I'm sure. Had some really nice billets too, who helped me out with my diet and stuff, making sure I was getting good nutrition. But yeah, man, I think I just kind of held on for dear life and tried to play my best at every opportunity I had there.
Yeah, so like you were talking about billets, like what was like your transition to like being with the billet family and being in Wichita Falls?
Yeah, it was definitely a transition, but like I said, I was pretty fortunate to have an amazing family. We lived on a nice big ranch house in Texas, and we had like a little farm with a ton of animals around, and they were amazing people. So they took great care of me and really made me feel at home right away.
Yeah, so with playing all these games, did you like are you a big pregame napper or are you not that big of a pregame
No,
napper?
I, yeah, no, I never really have been. Pregame skate, and then I mean, I'm more of like more yeah, I don't really need to do the same thing every single day, especially at that point. I was still trying to figure out my routines and stuff, but I'm more of a, if I need the nap, I nap, and if I don't, I don't really put too much pressure on, the whole day before a game, trying to get my routine exactly perfect. There's a couple of things I try to hit consistently, but some days you just don't need a nap. So that's kind of the way I roll.
Yeah, I'm like the same way. Like there's some days I don't need a nap and there's some days I do, and it just
Mm,
depends on how you feel. And so I'm not like
yeah, exactly.
superstitious about that part.
Definitely. Definitely. I think that's a good way to be.
Yeah, so you also played for the US National U18 team that year. So like what was your experience with the National U18 team?
It was super cool. Yeah, I was pretty fortunate. I got on their radar fairly early that year. Ended up playing in the like the All American Prospects game or something. I was just always kind of the first goalie that they would call if there was an injury to their team. So I think Demko had a couple of injuries that year, a couple of concussions, I think. So no, I got to take his spot in that game, and then I ended up going to Sweden. I think maybe in February with the 18 team, and was partners with Hunter Miska, and ended up playing most of the games there, which was really cool. I didn't honestly expect too much. I just kind of expected to go and do what I could do. If I got game time, that would be a bonus. And I ended up playing most of the games, which was really really cool for me. So that was definitely an experience that I still think about every once in a while.
Yeah, so what was it like being like partners with Demko and Miska? Like they must have helped you a lot. So like what was that like?
Yeah, no, it was great. I think Demko was pretty ahead of his time just in terms of his ability. He was kind of penciled in as being a guy who was going somewhere. And I think at that point, Miska had only been playing, man, not very long. He started pretty late in his career, so I think he was still pretty raw. He obviously had a ton of athleticism, and I think there was some potential there for sure. But yeah, it was great getting to know Demko and obviously Miska as well. Fashion, I still talk every once in a while. And then I obviously played against Hunter a little bit more in college too. Actually played against both of them a lot in college. So yeah, two great guys. It's fun to see how everybody's kind of wound up at this point, and where guys are going. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, now they're in the NHL, the AHL, and soon to be in NHL
Yeah,
for Miska. So that's always fun to see some of your partners do that,
yeah, definitely,
and
definitely.
you'll be up there soon.
Yeah, yeah. Everyone has their own process, so I know I can compete with those guys. So if they can do it, then I shouldn't be too far behind.
Yeah, for sure. Like, what was like the biggest thing you learned with the national team?
Honestly, that I could get ball at that level. I kind of went in there and I remember the goalie coach Mike Ayers taking me aside after the first practice and being like, "Listen, man, you deserve to be here. Like, you should like not necessarily, take this as like a handout. Like, you deserve to be here. So just bring what you bring, and it's like." The opportunities will be there for you. So I think that was a pretty cool experience, just getting to play with those guys. And a lot of those guys end up with great careers. So just being able to hold my own at that level, it was pretty eye opening, because it was a pretty fast process going from like I said, midgets and Arvada, not necessarily knowing what my future might hold, and then within 3 months, I'm playing against with like Seth Jones and all these guys that are penciled in to be huge players. So that was a pretty eye-opening experience for me to have at that point. And I kind of knew at that point that I could probably make a career out of this.
Yeah, so you guys traveled to Sweden. So like, was that your first time going overseas on a flight?
I'd been once before on like a family trip to France and Italy and Switzerland, so my second time, but first one for international hockey experience.
Yeah, so how was that experience?
It was great. It was cool. The food was obviously a little bit crazy, and it was in February in Sweden, so it was pretty dark and snowy. But no, it was cool. You just trying to live in the moment and soak it all in, soak in the new culture, and be with your teammates. And it was fun being in the hotel, same hotel as all the other teams, kind of seeing the way they do their stuff and the way we do our stuff was all a little bit different. So it was a really cool experience.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of cool stories that came up from that experience. So that it's always awesome to get those cool stories and memories out of all this going on.
De- definitely, Matt.
Yeah, so then after your 1 year in the NAHL and when you play with the U18 US team, you committed to the University of Denver. So what went into committing there, and why was it the right fit for you?
There were fortunately some pretty good teams in the mix that I was looking at, but I always knew that Denver would be the place I'd like to play if that was the opportunity that I got. I grew up obviously in Colorado, so DU was always a game that we all love to go to, and the campus is beautiful. Like, I think when I was a kid growing up, didn't really know where in the spectrum college hockey was, like if it was considered pro. Like in our eyes, everybody, those guys, you just look up to the guys no matter what. So it was always a dream of mine to play there, and when that became a reality, it was the perfect fit. It was exactly what I wanted, and where I wanted to be. Playing in front of the hometown friends and family, and making the connections there. So at the end of the day, it was a pretty easy choice for me.
Yeah, so it's near your hometown. So like, what was it like playing playing in your hometown team, and just being able to play there like consistently for like home games? Like, what was that like?
Oh, it was awesome. It was really, really cool. My family made it out to as many games as possible, and obviously friends and stuff too. And you make friends at school as well. And there's a pretty good following on campus without like a football team or like a big basketball team that was a top contender. Hockey is kind of the sport at DU. So it's obviously a pretty cool experience whenever you get to play, at any level in front of your friends and family. But especially at that level, it was a dream come true. It was super cool.
Yeah, that's awesome because you have literally friends and family like in at every game. So like it boosts the energy for you for sure, and like that your family are behind you. So it's always a good sign.
Exactly. Even if you have a bad night, you know that they'll love you no matter what. So there's always kind of that, and obviously they give you a little bit of motivation to pull yourself out of a kind of hole. You're struggling, you let a goal in early or something, and your mind can wander, and all of a sudden it can center you and really kind of bring you back into the moments. So that's a great tool for me at that point. That was pretty fun for me.
Yeah, exactly. And then you went into your freshman year. It's like, What were some of the expectations you had going in? Like, how did that line up with like your development?
Yeah, so it was pretty apparent that first year we had an absolute stud named Sam Britton, who was an All-American. And I thought that there was a lot to learn from him. At that point, I was still pretty green, trying to just learn as I go. Pretty raw, undeveloped talent, I think I had at that point. And so, yeah, I just basically tried to soak up as much as I could from Sam, and the other players around me. There was a lot of talented players there. So yeah, I think I only played like 5 or 6 games that year. A few of them were in relief as well. So I didn't get a ton of game experience, but the practices, the workouts, managing the workload with school and social life and all those things that are a piece of the puzzle at college. It was just kind of a good learning experience for me. And then kind of set the tone for the rest of the 3 years where, it was definitely a battle and had to worry a lot, or had to have all the rest of that stuff managed and really put all my effort and energy into the performance on the ice.
Yeah, so how are you able to like stay ready even though you only played 6 games like you said? Like how are you able to stay ready and like where was your mindset throughout the whole season?
Yeah, I think our coach really, really harped on good practice habits. And I think at that point was a game player. I didn't really take practices super seriously, cause I didn't have the energy to, cause I had played so many games that first year in Wichita Falls. So, no, learning how to be a really good practice player and have great habits, going out early, staying out late. There's no shortage of shots or opportunities to get better and learn. And, the off ice work too, we had extremely professional, strength training and medical, and all those people at DU, the support staff were amazing. So, it wasn't super hard for me to stay in. I was just so hungry for minutes and so hungry for every opportunity that, the work that went into preparing for it, it was easy to put the effort in for that.
Yeah, you definitely for sure got to build those expectations and like you got to like stay ready and like you got to build good habits as well, especially as a goaltender cuz
Definitely.
if you don't like everything's going to go downhill. So like
Exactly.
I've
Exactly.
I didn't really have that great of habits, but like recently I've gotten into a good habits and like my
Hmm.
play has gone from like maybe like steady to like and it keeps increasing. So just gotta build
Keeps
good
going.
habits and your mindset's gotta be there for sure.
Definitely, it's all about the preparation. I feel like that is the key to a lot of guys' consistency. Is when you're going into a game where maybe you think you might be in over your head, if you can fall back on your training and have confidence in your process that got you ready for that game, then that's where confidence, for me at least, is built from. So that I really had to learn that year, and because you're sitting on a bench, most nights watching a fantastic goalie make fantastic saves, and your mind begins to wander like, well, would I have made that save? Would we have won the game if I was playing? And so those thoughts can be a little distracting at times, but as long as you kind of stick to the process and understand, that you're making incremental process or progress throughout the season on a day-to-day basis, like, hopefully at that level at least you're building your confidence, you're able to excel.
Yeah. So when your mind does start to wander, like what do you do to like control your mind and not have it wander so much?
Yeah, I mean that's definitely been a process. I was looking for like the magic bullet, the perfect pill, for a long time, trying to talk to as many guys as possible about the secret. And I think a lot of guys practice breathing, in the moment meditation kind of things, like trigger words. So I've tried a lot of those things, and for me, definitely the breathing, just trying to center yourself, get back, in between the posts mentally, and because things can kind of spiral quickly if you're just kind of in your head. You let in a goal, maybe you're not feeling your best, maybe it was a bad bounce, maybe it was a bad goal. Like all those situations can arise pretty fast, and you can spiral from like, I'm gonna have a great game tonight, to like, get me out of this net, this sucks. So I try, obviously breathing, and then some trigger words I'll use, like just try to get myself back into my process and what I need to be doing to have good results.
Yeah, we've all had those situations where we let in a bad goal and it gets to us, and then the next thing you know, another puck's in the back of the net, and then another one, and then everything just
Exactly.
want to get out. So just got to have that process and that simple mind to just stay in the moment.
Yeah. Short-term memory. That's the thing. It's always just about worrying about the next shot, and that's the ultimate thing you want to avoid is letting one goal results in a second goal. Same thing, like after a big save, all those kinds of situations that are kind of big momentum shifting moments. Nothing worse than making a fantastic save and then letting in a soft goal the next shot. So there's all these moments in a game that you kind of have to learn to recognize and understand the momentum shifts. And center yourself throughout the whole process. It's just kind of like the shot preparation is always going, and then you make the save, and then it's the post save stuff, and then back to the shot prep as well. So that's it's a process, but you got to stick to it best you can.
Yeah, exactly. So then going into your sophomore year, you got a chance to play 20 games that season. So which was like the most in a season in your college career, I believe. So like, what was it like finally getting the chance, and how do you take advantage of that?
Oh, it was great. I think that summer going into my sophomore year, I was so motivated to just, kill it in the weight room and get on the ice as much as I can. And, I could feel that there was a battle coming with a great goalie partner, but I really wanted to do my best to at least try to earn the starting spot right away. And so, obviously getting to play a bunch more games and kind of build your confidence around, not obviously your own game, have your team build their confidence around you as well, it was great getting into that season.
Yeah, for sure. So like, what was it like the transition period? Because you went from the NAHL to playing in college. So like, what was it like the
Mhm.
transition period from the NAHL to NCAA Division One?
I think it was a big step up. Initially, I was actually planning on playing another year of juniors in the USHL, but there was a couple of things in terms of like their line of development at Denver that a couple of guys left early. UC Okanora was supposed to be coming back, and I think he ended up leaving and signing. And then they had a senior graduate. So a couple of things on the front end, and then the guy who I think they had to come in didn't pass clearinghouse or something. So I was in the middle of summer at Sioux City's tryout, and the DU coach was there, and he's like, "Hey, we need you to come in probably early. So this tryout doesn't even matter." So I was like, "Okay." So I think initially I was probably in over my head. Like I was really just trying to hold on and do my best. And thankfully there's a pretty good support system there. And I didn't have to get right into playing big minutes right away. I had some time to feel it out, which is great. But it's definitely a transition. It's definitely, you go from living your junior lifestyle, everything's kind of done for you. There's not a lot of individualism that goes into that whole day-to-day process, and then all of a sudden you're on your own, living with your teammates at the dorms. You're in charge of all your schoolwork, you're in charge of your schedule, you're in charge of your meals. All these things are kind of thrown at you, and then also you have to play at an elite level, not only in games but in practices. So it's definitely a step up just in terms of the whole organization thing. But once you kind of get that down, you grow so much, and now dealing with normal life, it's almost too simple. Like sometimes I actually like want to go do some other stuff just to get my mind off of hockey, because it seems like a lot of hockey. So
Yeah, and like college is a whole different thing because you actually have to worry about like doing schoolwork and like balancing like all your other lives. It's definitely a challenge, and you got to get used to that. But it was good that you were finally
100%.
able to get used to it and get a chance to play.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so then the next 2 years, you put up some impressive numbers. You had a 2.07 goals against average and a 1.13 goals against average your final 2 years. So, like, what made you so successful? Did you like set that number as your goal, or did you just take it like game by game?
Yeah, I think you take it game by game. My goalie partner was ripping it up. He was playing super well. So I knew every opportunity I had to take advantage because you know when you're in a goalie battle, you obviously in the college environment, you're not only partners with somebody, like you want to be friends with them, but you also want to be competitive. And we definitely pushed each other a lot. And I really had to take advantage of every opportunity I had. So I tried to give my team a chance to win, and I think I did that. I put up some pretty sick numbers, like you said. So yeah, I mean that's kind of all you can control at that point is just doing your job when you get the chance. And I mean I feel like I completely did that those last couple of years. It was nice to kind of see the whole thing come together, and that, and also we had an incredible team. Our last 2 years, we were kind of top spot in the nation within the top five the whole season. So you kind of get that support too. They give you a lot of structure in front of you, and then as a goalie, that's all you can really ask for. So
Yeah, so I'm looking at your elite prospects right now, and you're an NCAA championship winner, and you're NCAA regular season champion. So what was that team like? Because the bond and how you guys were so good must have felt really good and made you confident. So, how was that?
oh, it was fantastic. I mean, you look at the lineup that we had my senior year. I don't know the official count, but I think more than probably 10 guys have NHL games now at this point. And so it was such a great bond. Like we were so committed from the first day. Our junior year, we ended up making it to the Frozen Four in Tampa Bay, and we're eliminated in the semifinal, and that really stung. But I think when we got there, it was like such a grand event, and we were just kind of like, wow, like this is so cool. It was almost like, what are we doing here kind of thing. And then it was a great learning experience because the next year we went to the Frozen Four, and it was like a business trip. It went from like a vacation our junior year to just a business trip. We were there. We knew what to expect. We knew we'd get to like charter a flight and have a nice dinner and do like a cool event, before, and the awards ceremonies and all those things. We all knew that stuff, and it didn't really matter. We were just on a mission, and that was the mindset that really kind of put the whole thing together to kind of finish it off. So no, it was really cool. It's a great bunch, and our senior class especially, we still are in touch pretty much daily still. Just kind of teasing each other and telling each other stories and stuff. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome when you have teammates that you connect with every day still, and it's not like you left or anything. It's just back to where it all started.
Exactly.
Yeah, so then after your senior year at University of Denver, you began your professional career in the East Coast Hockey League in the ECHL with the Reading Royals right out of college. So, what was that experience like, getting your first taste of pro and learning from your goalie partners?
Yeah, that was a little weird. So we won the championship. We've been partying for like a week, and then I get a call from the Reading Royals coach saying, "Hey, like you're one of the guys that has been playing up, the most recently, and like we really need a guy to come in." At that point, I was like, "Do I do this? Like, do I kind of want to stay and like obviously keep celebrating and stuff, or do I kind of get this opportunity and then maybe take advantage?" So I ended up saying, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And it was just for the first round of the playoffs. So I was with Mark Decadence, who was a super interesting guy, really talented goalie. I think he just retired actually maybe a year or two ago. But it was really interesting seeing kind of like, he's a guy who takes his process super seriously. Like he is so dialed into every single piece that his body needs, his brain needs. And we were playing against like Zach Cowley. I think we were playing the Brampton Bees or something. So I didn't get it. I don't think I played a game or a minute, but it was just interesting going there very briefly. Like I don't even really remember the trip. I just wanted to get back, honestly, to Denver and continue to celebrate. I made it back just in time to go on a trip to Hawaii with the senior class. So that was the biggest the biggest part about that first stint.
Yeah, that's awesome. At least you got experience playoff hockey in the pros and the coast. And you got to
Definitely.
party after. So it's not
Exactly. Best of
all a
both
bad
worlds.
thing. Not a bad thing for sure. So then the following year, you got into game action and you split time in both the American League and the coast with the Springfield Thunderbirds and the Manchester Monarchs. So like, what was it like playing in Springfield and then playing in Manchester?
Yeah, it was great. First opportunity at a professional or NHL training camp, which was really cool. Luongo was my goalie partner in camp, so that was pretty surreal for me. I was like a Canucks fan growing up, huge Luongo fan. So there's like a picture that came out of just like him and I standing next to each other, talking to Rob Tallis, and I think my grandma might have had a heart attack that day because she's a huge she's from Vancouver too, so she's a huge Canucks fan. So it was a pretty cool experience. And then starting there, I was with Sam Montembeau and Hari Satiri. I was kind of like the fifth goalie in the system. So if Luongo was injured, I was up in the American League, and if he was healthy, then I was down to the coach, just based on contracts. Fortunately for me, he was kind of out of the lineup for most of the year. So I spent most of the season in Springfield, just kind of in that environment, which was super intense and amazing. Like and then talk about an environment that is inspiring to, want to get better and want to continue to perform and improve and get ice time. So, that was fantastic. And my time in Manchester as well was really great. We had a really good group of guys there, and it's a really professional organization at the time. They're not a team anymore, but it was a great experience. And I had a great goalie partner, Charles Williams, down there, who was just an absolute stud, awesome guy. Great fiance too, who was super kind to me and my fiance now too. So no, it was a great kind of first taste. A whole different ball game from college and from juniors. It's crazy the steps, when you're going up the ladder, how different everything is within the same game. It's pretty crazy. You got to learn very fast.
Yeah, so what was that transition like going from like the AHL to the East Coast? Like, did it take some time to get used to like the speed of the game, or like did it come pretty easy to you?
Honestly, like as a goalie, I think it's harder to play in the coast than it is to play in the American League. There's just a bunch more structure in the American League. Like guys they take a lot of pride in their defense and like being in the right spots in the D zone, and that kind of transitions well to offense. In the coast, it's less like that. You have only 3 lines of players, and I think a lot of them are obviously trying to put up points because that's the thing that everybody sees. So even, the defensive players that maybe, don't have a ton of offensive upside, they're trying to hop in the rush. They're trying to, the D men are always trying to hop in the rush. So it ends up being odd man rushes back and forth and really great chances. So it was a learning curve playing in that league for sure. I kind of at DU wasn't really expected to make, 10 to 15 incredible, like desperation saves a game. I was like 5, 5 like really big saves a game at DU, and then now it's like 15 to 30 like good saves a game. American League, it was a little bit different. Like obviously the skill level and the flow of the game is definitely higher, but you have guys in front of you who contain people, know what to expect when you go into a game. There's so much video and preparation that goes in every game as well. So it was really cool going back and forth between those 2 leagues. It definitely took like a day or 2 just to kind of readjust and recalibrate to what you're going to be seeing.
Yeah, so you got your first pro win. So like, take us back to that game and like how that like game went. Like, what was the feeling about getting your first pro win?
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was against the Senators farm team. I think we won like 5-3, Belleville, and it was at home in Springfield. And I just remember learning that I was going to start the day before, and I was pretty nervous. Like, and I don't get super nervous before games, but I was pretty nervous that game. And you just want to go in there and just give your team a chance. Give your team a chance to win. And luckily had some goal support too. We got 5 goals. So no, it was great. I honestly don't even really remember too much of the game. I was just trying to compete and do what I can do. And yeah, at the end, you feel on top of the world. So that was a pretty cool experience.
Yeah, that's awesome. So then you went to the coast and you played in 4 playoff games in Manchester. So like, what was the playoff atmosphere like in Manchester, and how did you guys end up doing that season?
We ended up doing pretty well. We won the first series. I remember it was a wild series against Reading. And it was like 3 back-to-back triple overtime games, which was crazy. Like, guys, we were in the locker room like with IVs in between the overtime periods, like trying to get fluids and rehydrate. So that was pretty wild. And I kind of came late because I was in Springfield, so I came late. So Charles played, I think, that whole series, and we ended up sweeping them despite going to all those overtimes. We won all the overtimes. Then I got the opportunity to play the next series, and I think we did pretty well. I had a couple shutouts and put up some decent numbers, but we played against Adirondack, and they just kind of had our number. So I think Willie and I ended up splitting that series, and by the end, they ended up winning. So tough to go out at that point, but I mean, playoff hockey is just so fun. It's just a different ball game. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, so how were your legs feeling during all these triple overtime games? And
Oh, it's
like what
crazy.
was it like? Like how do you recover and like all that stuff?
It was wild. Yeah, I don't know. You just kind of have to dial it in and just do whatever it takes at that point. I remember the opposing goalie he ended up going to the hospital after the second night because it was a back-to-back. The second night of triple overtime, he was just drained. They had to like delay their departure back to Reading because he had to get some major fluids and he was in tough shape. So yeah, those games are crazy. It's just like it's physical, it's mental, it's the whole package. You gotta have to just kind of hold on.
Yeah, so then so that's very interesting. That I can't imagine playing 3 overtimes back to back to back like that. That's
Yeah,
crazy. The things you see in
yeah, it's
pro
wild.
hockey.
Hmm.
Yeah, so then the next year, and you spent time with the Wheeling Nailers for a little bit in the East Coast, and then you went over to Poland. So like, how do you get that opportunity to send you to Poland?
Yeah, so the summer in between those 2 seasons, I was kind of expecting to be back with Springfield, and then they ended up needing a little bit more experience on the back end. So kind of last minute decided to move in a different direction, and I was kind of left without a ton of opportunity because I think a lot of teams had already penciled in goalies into their lineups. So kind of last minute sign with Wheeling with an opportunity there, and it wasn't a good fit. They had a bunch of guys there. It was kind of a new coach, and who'd been out of the game for a little while, and I was like with Matt O'Connor and a couple other guys, and so we were all just trying to do our best, and it was a bit crazy. So I just decided to get out of there. I'd always wanted to play in Europe, so I left. I got on like LinkedIn and Facebook because I had a couple of messages from agents from overseas saying, do you want to come play in Europe? So I reached out to all of them and said, hey, listen, like first contract that is in a place where I'm going to play every minute of every game. It's in a city that's cool and I like to explore and is like decent money. But mostly the first 2 things just to get reps, like I'll go. So 4 or 5 agents are looking around, kind of coming back with some stuff that looks pretty good. It probably takes about 2 weeks. And then this team in Gdansk, Poland comes to the table, and I look up the city. It looks amazing. The league doesn't have like the best reputation, but this team had a good reputation within that league. And so I basically was like, you know what, let's send it. Let's see what we can make of this. And it ended up being awesome. I played every minute. The team and the city were fantastic. We ended up, I think when I got there, we were in like 10th or 11th place, few spots out of a playoff spot. We all won almost every single game when I got there, ended up making the playoffs and took the eventual champions to game 7, a couple overtimes there as well. So it was a really cool experience for me. And I think, the intensity of college and the American League it definitely wears you down a bit. And I think at that point, with a tough summer, that previous summer, I was like kind of starting to doubt if I really wanted to be in the game anymore and if I was still passionate. And being in that environment like reignited it, like just being the guy every single night, kind of being relied upon and coming up with big saves and things like that. It really kind of re-inspired me to continue to play and move my way up the ladder here in Europe. So that was a good spot for me.
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta send it, and that's awesome that like you finally found that like spark in you again, and like you instantly wanted to still keep playing. So like, was it hard to get used to like the ice surface, because it isn't a lot bigger overseas than it is in the States?
Yeah, it's a bit bigger. There were a couple teams, like Colorado College has a huge rink. A few other teams too in the NCHC. So I played on big ice before, so it wasn't really like a practice. You just kind of work on your angles a bit, get beat short side, 2-3 shots, and then you kind of correct yourself, and you're good.
Yeah. So what do you think was the hardest transition from playing in the States to going overseas?
Honestly, like that first year was pretty lonely. I didn't have any North Americans on my team, only Polish guys, Czech guys, and Russians. And the English was very small. Like even the guys that became my eventual friends, like spoke fairly broken English, like barely. So, and I wasn't with my fiance or anything. I was just there by myself. So it was a pretty lonely year in terms of like just conversation. They eventually like warmed up to me, and they would be like, we'd go to lunch and they'd all be, speaking Polish. And then all of a sudden, one of them would realize I had no idea what anybody was saying. And they'd like turn to me and be like, oh, Iwan, like, it was funny. He made a joke about a boat, and then just would turn around and, keep talking. So it was, I don't know. That was probably the most challenging part, was just not really understanding anything that was said at any point and just having to exist. Luckily for us, like we mostly just stand in the net in drills and practice. Like we don't have to really understand systems if we, in a practice. So that was the biggest thing, just the communication aspect. But the hockey, like that level was a little bit below what I've been playing. So it was pretty easy to put up good numbers and give our team a chance.
Yeah, all our jobs just stop the puck, so you don't have to worry
Yeah.
about too much. But that's still
Yeah.
interesting that you had to like learn like what your teammates were saying. Like that must have been a whole different experience as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's one thing if you're like us in the net, and no matter what the drill is, you're going to be in the net. Another thing when you're like a defenseman and you got to, cut back and wheel around the net and make a pass and then gap up and then play a 2-on, like all these drills can get pretty complicated. And if you don't know what the guy is saying, and, he's drawing scribbles on the board, and you don't know if he's talking about you or the other team, or you're watching video and you don't know if, you're talking about a breakout or a forecheck, like it was pretty crazy for a little while there, but you pick up on some of the words, and you can kind of understand. So that's been a learning curve for me the last 3 years for sure.
Yeah. So then this prior year, you played 45 games for the Bulldogs in Odense in Denmark. So like, what was it like playing 45 games in a new country, new league? And so like, what was that whole experience like?
It was great. Kind of continuing on from Gdansk, like I played every game, so I haven't actually sat on a bench in 2 seasons, which has been fantastic for just being a guy consistently, and whether or not it's kind of like the same vibe as in Wichita Falls, where even if you maybe don't have your best game ever, you're going to play the next one. You can just try to work better, or try to work things out in a better way the next time. So it's great. Obviously my process is significantly improved now than it was in Wichita Falls. So that was great. But yeah, just managing the workload, making sure you're taking care of your body, putting in the prep work, putting in the post ice work, eating healthy, all those things were huge factors. And it was a great culture last year. We had a bit of a struggling team for sure. Young team, pretty inexperienced. So as a goalie, like it can be tough because you're not going to win a ton of games, but it was also really cool because I was seeing like 45 shots a night. So I was just getting absolutely peppered, which, I hadn't really had that amount of shots consistently in a season. Like I think I had 300 more shots against than the second guy in terms of shots against in the league. So a lot of shots, but yeah, just a great opportunity to improve and work on a lot of facets of the game.
Yeah, and getting a lot of shots on you is, I like it. Like last year, I'd face like 60 shots consistently, and it was a bit brutal at times. But like I'd rather get the reps in than just get like 10 shots a game, and like you have to make those incredible saves and like keep your team in it. So it's always a good feeling when you do that, for sure.
Yeah, it's important to be able to do both, right? Like, if you only see 15 shots, maintaining mental focus you'll leave the game and you'll almost be as tired as if you saw 60 because the whole time you're just like trying to stay in it. And then you see 60 and you're like, obviously you're exhausted after, but you've just been in the flow. You're not even thinking. You're just, pucks are hitting you and you're flying around the net, and you could let in 3 goals and you still are, playing really well. So it was an opportunity to just see shots and just compete, and not necessarily, we weren't winning a ton of games, which sucks. And throughout the year, it can definitely be a grind. But in terms of just like giving us a chance, that was my whole focus the whole year.
Yeah, exactly. So like you played 45 games. So like, was it like the recovery process the same as what you did in juniors, or did you learn a bit more of like recovery going in the pros, and what was that like?
Oh yeah, it had really evolved. At DU, we had a super great structure in place. So I learned a lot about my body and what kind of makes me tick, what makes me go, what I need to recover. All those things were kind of mapped out for us, and so that really helped. Basically, since I've started playing pro, I still maintain a very similar routine as I had there, but. Yeah, playing 45, like sometimes you just have to realize that it's more about maintenance than making gains, especially later half of the season. You're not trying to lift too much in the weight room. You're not trying to do too much on, the bike. You're not trying to do all these things. You kind of manage your workload, and then some days you feel great and you can really lean into it and try to gain back some of that the strength or whatever. But yeah, just it's all about the maintenance and the mobility and managing the wear and tear.
Yeah, you just gotta maintain, especially that later part of the season. You just gotta maintain. It's not worry about getting all that strength, but just keeping it simple and just keep maintaining, like you said.
Exactly.
Yeah. So this prior season was a crazy year with COVID-19 coming into play. So like, what went on with everything leading up to COVID? Like the games, like the practices, and like traveling back home, country policies, and stuff like that.
Yeah, that was wild. So we ended up playing our last game of the season to like behind closed doors. So we had no fans in the building. At that point, it was in China, it was in Italy, and kind of starting to expand a bit out of there. And I'm pretty like up to date with the news and stuff, like listening to podcasts. And so I'm sitting there like, man, this is going to get hairy pretty fast. And then I remember there were a few, I'm a pretty big soccer fan. So there were a few games that were starting to get played behind closed doors. And then basically we played ours, and I think I had, because we didn't make the playoffs. So I had a flight booked for like the next week to go home. But then I think it was like a Wednesday night, Trump had his like speech, banning travel from Europe. And that was like 5 o'clock in the US, and I was already asleep at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning where I was. So I get this call in the middle of the night from my fiance saying, there's a travel ban on Europe. Like it starts on Friday. Like you got to get out of there. You're not going to be able to come home. Like it's all going crazy. So basically I like call my agent quick. I'm like, okay, what's the deal? Do I need to get home now? Am I good because I'm an American citizen? Like I can get back whenever. He's like, honestly, like just try to get out as soon as you can. I'm like, well, my flight leaves next week. He's like, that might be too late. So I'm like, crap. So, and I ended up switching my flight to like the next morning. I stayed up the whole night cleaning the apartment, like packing my stuff. I ended up leaving a bunch of stuff there at like, so it's at my buddy's house, and he's just going to ship it to me now because we knew we were going to come back. Just pure chaos, up all night, end up getting a train at like 8 a.m. My buddy drives me to the train. I train from Odense to Copenhagen, and I fly out, and the whole day everybody's just going crazy. Like nobody knows about like, you know, wearing masks are like kind of, you know, suggested, but like not super proven yet or something. And so like I'm wearing one, but like most people aren't wearing them. A lot of the people on my flights were like college kids abroad, and they're all freaking out. And so it was pretty chaotic. And I remember like we're about to get on the flight, and they go on the loudspeaker saying, hello, like, just so you guys know, there was just a, you know, 7.0 earthquake in Reykjavik, which is where we were flying to. So it's like, everything should be okay, but we're going to be a little bit delayed. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like COVID, and now I got to fly to this place with an earthquake. Like I'm never going to get home. So it was pretty wild, but it ended up working all fairly smoothly. Got on the flights and everything, and ended up back in Denver soon after that. So it was a wild end of the season, and managing that. And then obviously this whole summer has just been a little chaotic with leagues and teams, and nobody really understanding if there's going to be a season, if there's going to be a budget available. You know, salaries are dropping throughout a majority of the leagues this year because sponsorships have gone down. So I think for most players, especially the ones in Europe, where you know, the salaries are really contingent on sponsors, and a lot of the sponsors don't have disposable income now. So it's been a big mess, but I was really fortunate to track down this team in Nitra, and you know, all things are going well so far.
No, talk about a crazy year. That was
Wild,
I
man.
can't imagine that. Like everything from here
Yeah.
in the States is like NBA canceled, NHL postponed, NCAA canceled everything. It's like
Yeah.
everything for
Yeah.
us was canceled. Then like every
Ugh.
MLB postponed. Like it was one crazy time to live in.
It definitely was. It definitely was. And I was fortunate because I was just by myself. So, you know, there was guys with families and animals and all these things, which I could imagine that'd be significantly harder to track that down. So it's crazy. You kind of roll the dice every time you come over here to play, but you just try to track down teams that have your best interests in mind and really want to help you in every way possible. And there's a lot of really great organizations here that do have that intention.
Yeah, so then you signed this season to play with HK Nitra. So like how'd that like opportunity come up, and like what was the whole signing process with like COVID-19 precautions and like everything going on in the world right now?
Yeah, it was actually something that was kind of in the works already last season. They were trying to sign me at the trade deadline last year, but we just couldn't get it signed in time. My team wasn't too interested in letting me go, so um, it was kind of, we already had the connections, and it was a spot we thought would be a really good spot. There were a couple other leagues that we were looking into as well. But at the end of the day, I think this one, like Slovakia, has really done a great job with COVID and managing it. And I think there's only been like maybe 30 deaths the whole time, you know, since the beginning of COVID. So they took it very seriously. It just seemed like they laid the groundwork now so that the future could be a little bit brighter. So between that and the organization being super welcoming and straightforward and professional, it just seemed like a perfect fit. And so then we had to kind of go through a series of processes to just like visa applications and making sure travel was, you know, something that we could actually do. That day was pretty stressful coming out here because, you know, obviously right now there's not a lot of countries that are willing to accept Americans. So you know, I was expecting things to maybe go a little bit south, but we had all the paperwork that we needed, and at every stop there weren't any issues. So we got over here and had to quarantine for 2 weeks, and then take a test, pass passed the COVID test, and then joined the team for training camp. And so we've been going for 2 weeks now, 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah. So what are you doing to prepare for the season right now? Like, when did it start? And, like, what's your overall experience so far in Slovakia been like since COVID's here, and like the overall
Yeah,
experience with it?
yeah, definitely. We are working our bags off, doing like 2-a-day skates, training in the afternoons as well. Weightlifting, all those things are they're kind of at the forefront of the whole thing right now. So these training camps are always difficult. You get some exhibition games. Usually you get to go to a cool country. Like last year, when I was in Denmark, we got to go to Scotland for a couple exhibition games. This year we were supposed to go to, I think, Switzerland, but that's obviously not in the cards anymore. So no, we're playing local teams around Slovakia, a couple teams from like Hungary and some Austria and a few of those places. So yeah, just it's all kind of just building up for the season, and we're hoping that it starts October 2nd. But in the meantime, we're just trying to get to work.
Yeah, that's awesome that the season's supposed to start. I know we talked about this earlier, but it's glad that I'm happy that like your league's starting up sooner than like pretty much like every league, like NHL, NBA. Like December is supposed to be the start date here. And I know some
Yeah.
countries in Europe, they don't start till December, so it's definitely cool to see that you guys are starting October.
Yeah, knock on wood. I hope that everything is able to run smoothly, and people keep doing the right thing, and we don't have any cases for players in the league. That would be great if we could figure it out and be on time.
Yeah,
Sure.
exactly. And I have a few more questions for you before we get this
Yeah, definitely.
episode done. So, like, what are some pros and cons of practice?
Pros and cons of practice. Well, I think initially it is a great spot to hone your skills. I think taking practices for granted is easy, but the sooner you can learn to really maximize your ice time and find the lesson within any drill. There's some drills, obviously they're not designed for goalies, but if you can kind of pick one thing that you're going to work on, even though it's like a one-timer from the slot, you might not track one single puck, but you're going to have your feet set, on every single time that the shot's released, your feet are going to be set. Like, just trying to pick and choose, what you can get better at, I think is a great piece of practice. It can really help you build your confidence. Down or negatives, I mean, there's just you can have a tough practice every once in a while that doesn't go your way, or you know what, I'd honestly say like the stingers in practice, like you're, no matter what, you're probably leaving with a couple pucks to the palm of your glove or collarbone area, or
Domed in
wherever
the
the weak
head.
spots are for headshots for sure. Like, fortunately for me, I'm 6'5", so if guys are hitting me in the head, they're way off, and I can kind of give them a look like, you need to be better at shooting, because that, even in a butterfly, that's missing the net. So yeah, no, those are always going to happen, and that's obviously not the best part about the position, and those are more likely to happen in practice. So
Yeah,
that's the negative.
yeah. Recently, when I've been going to practice, I've been getting hit in the head like 3-4 times a practice. It's not fun, but
You must be like doing what Lundqvist does, trying to
yeah,
lean into
just
pucks.
headbutting it, just leaning into them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what's been your favorite city you visited overseas?
Ooh. My first year I went to Vienna for Christmas with one of my roommates from college. Actually, he was from Vienna, and that was beautiful. Like, the Christmas markets and just the whole culture around Christmas over here is amazing. It's super fun and unique. And then actually last year, my fiance and I, we went to Rome for an international break in November, so well before Italy kind of blew up with COVID. But that was just amazing. Like, I feel like these trips they always kind of seem out of reach, because when you're in the US, it's expensive, it takes a lot of time to get over, and here it's like you can hop on an hour flight and you can be in an incredible city that's been around since the beginning of time. You know, it's really, really cool. So we definitely have a few more cities on our list this year that we're hoping to go visit.
Yeah, it's just awesome visiting all those cities overseas. Like, I'm hoping to get overseas one day, and it just
Mm-hmm.
every city people visit seem to, it's just good things, and like the views and everything are just insane, and it's just like
Mm-hmm.
a lot better than the States.
Yeah, it's just different. You know, it's hard not to compare the two, but just the food and the culture and the way the pace of life is just different. Like the way people move in a grocery store, like little things that you take for granted. You know, you do it over here, and especially when you're starting to get used to it at the beginning. I remember like when I was first in Poland, like going to the grocery store, I came back and I had everything I got was like what I wanted. The first like 3 times I went to the grocery store, I'd come back expecting that I got like pasta and it would be something different. And I'd be like, come on, you know? So finally, like you go to the grocery store and everything you thought you got is actually what you got. And there's like little victories in the day-to-day life that are it's just very unique. And I would recommend anybody kind of who has the opportunity to do something like this, try to take advantage. And you know, it might be a risky situation or something that's, you know, going to be difficult with some definite challenges. But I mean, just the little like stories and the hard times, like if you can take that as like, wow, like this is going to be a great story one day, instead of like, oh, this sucks, like it'd be better in the US, because you can take it both of those ways. And you know, I've seen guys who do both. You just kind of have to roll with it and enjoy the culture and enjoy the weirdness of it, enjoy the coolness of it. All those things are right there to kind of be experienced.
Yeah, for sure. So I have one more question for you. So
Mm-hmm.
are there any cool or interesting stories from playing overseas or in any league in general that you have?
Cool or interesting stories. Well, I remember that when I was in Poland the first year, there were so many just like moments where you're like, what is going on here? But my like third game I was over there, we ended up driving. So basically, my team was in the north, and we were the only team in the north. So every single game, road game that we played, was a 9-hour bus ride down to the south. All the teams were in the south. So I remember going down, and we actually got to play at a rink in this town called Oświęcim, which I think that pronunciation is fairly accurate, but that's like where like the concentration camp Auschwitz is. And I'm a huge history guy, so that was super interesting just to kind of be there. And you know, I'm not like the biggest believer in ghosts or anything, but it was like such an eerie night. Like if ghosts are real, they're there. So it was that was a really interesting experience. And I was actually listening to a couple of history books that that actually my buddy, who was a history major at university, had sent me about the whole kind of like World War II you know, struggle in Poland and all the hardships and stuff of that whole time. It's just incredible. So I was like listening to this book about just these horrific stories driving down like in the area where this stuff happened, and then I end up at this rink that's like right by like one of the craziest, scariest places on earth. And yeah, that was pretty wild. That was a pretty wild experience.
Dang, that seems crazy. Like all these stories I've heard from overseas are pretty weird and crazy and interesting. So it's always good to get those perspectives, especially since you're playing there. So it's definitely fun to
Definitely.
hear.
Yeah, no, it's wild. Like I said, there's a lot of craziness that you can either take as like this stinks, or you can be like, this is what a crazy experience. This is pretty cool. So yeah, hopefully that was a good one.
Yeah, it definitely was. So Evan, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate your time and look forward to what you'll be doing this season over in Slovakia. Keep in touch and good luck.
No problem, Jack. Thanks for having me, and good luck with the podcast. I'll be listening.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that.
Peace.